Africa, realistically, there are not that many services, so you have to work with what you have and understand that you know your child best. And as long as you are trying and making that effort to make life easier for your child, you know, it can only go up from here.
Thank you. I just wanted to touch on one thing you said, if you could elaborate on it. You talked about things that are like a child doing something that does not hinder anything else.
Right.
Like you said, listening to music on replay or doing something. I think a lot of Africans struggle with that in particular when their child is being repetitive with something, but it's not hindering the way that they're learning or they're, they get angry and they want to either beat the child or like, no, go play with something else. And then that starts behavior. I want you to just let parents know that it's okay if the thing is socially, it's okay. Like if they want to listen to music, that same song for the rest of their life, it's okay.
Absolutely. I mentioned earlier, I have a sibling that is on the spectrum, and he loves to watch. He's 16 years old, and he loves to watch Wawa Wubsy. Now, Wawa Wubsy is a show that, like, typically is for like maybe like preschoolers, kindergartners. And like we let him. At first, my mom was just like, "No, he's too old for that. Like he shouldn't be watching that." And I was just like, "Listen, he is still functioning as best as he can. Like by taking away that show, you are creating more behaviors than just letting it be. He's speaking as he should. He's doing everything else that would be considered quote unquote age appropriate. But he likes Wawa Wubsy. We all have our quirks. We all have things we like. I think not only just with Africans, but just with parents, you want your child to be quote unquote normal. You want your child to fit in with everyone. You want your child to be the same as all the other kids. And sometimes it just doesn't work like that, and we have to be able to understand that while our child has autism, they're still a human being and they still have likes and dislikes. They still have the right to have likes and dislikes. And I think people kind of see the autism diagnosis and are just like, oh my God, my child has to completely depend on me for the rest of their life. Oh my God, my child has no sense of independence, no sense of being. This is still a person you're talking about. This person still has things that they enjoy, they don't enjoy. And they have the right to partake in those activities. So as long as the behavior is not something that is socially insignificant or something that is, putting a barrier between them interacting with people or anything of that sort, if you know that taking it away is going to create more behaviors than leaving it, just let it be. I hope that was clear.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Tamilola, do you want to add something? We have some questions that we can go through on the chat if you want to.
Yeah, well, I just wanted to talk about, I think the question about the vaccination. Yeah. So I was going to say that I completely understand those parents. When we don't understand something, we tend to look around. We want to look for every clue, because things just don't happen, right? So if vaccination makes sense to parents who says, oh, I got my child vaccinated, or this is what caused it, then they kind of have peace of mind that says, oh, well, I didn't cause it. I know it's nothing that I did in the womb. So it's something external that caused it. It's something, they did to my child. So we like to look for, every other possible cause, so that it can kind of ease our minds, But, study does shows that vaccination, there's no research, there's no link between vaccination and the cause of autism. Actually, scientists still don't know what causes autism. They still don't know what goes on, in there. So that's really it. That's really all the research. We really don't know what caused it. And I know saying that is kind of frightening, because parents are like, well, if they don't know what's causing it, then how can we prevent it from happening? How can I make sure that when I give birth and my child doesn't have autism? We don't know, we just don't know.
Thank you. So let's go through the questions. Mom, did you have something to say real quick before we go through the questions on the chat?
Yes, is actually a question, and but you're going to address it.
Yeah, on the chat.
Yes.
Okay, cool. So the very first question we have is, my question will be, how do you know when to start intervention? And from my perspective, and then I'll let you guys go, start as soon as you get that diagnosis. You can't start intervention without a diagnosis. You can do things at home, like you can do like things at home, but you don't know until you get diagnosed. And so you see your pediatrician would then refer you to a psychologist or a doctor who is specialized in developmental delays and things like that. They will refer you or a neurologist, sorry, forgot about the neurologist. They'll refer you, and then that person will do series of tests. And the tests are not like medical tests. They're like, they put them in the room, they watch how they play, they watch how they do things. And then they'll give you the diagnosis, and then you can start your intervention. One company we work closely with, if you're in the Houston area, is Think Neurology. Think Neurology does diagnosis for us. And so if you're looking to go to Think Neurology, you can really go to your pediatrician, tell the pediatrician what signs you're seeing. And the pediatrician can either tell you if he or she thinks it's autism, or they have some other delays. They may have a speech delay, they may have gross motor delays, and that would require you to go to like occupational therapy, or it may require you to go to speech therapy. But a lot of children that we work with in ABA still go to speech therapy and occupational therapy. So it's like under an umbrella, and they still have those things. But Tamila, I will let your team answer that question.
Can I say something?
Yeah, for sure.
Go ahead.
All right. I think early intervention starts before preschool. And to me personally, one thing I've observed is that as a parent, immediately, like Victoria said, you can't do early intervention without being diagnosed. But if you see, as a parent, you see there's changes in your child's behavior compared to that of the other kids that you have, or compared to what you've seen before now, I think the best thing to do, take your child to the doctor and run some tests. Through that, the doctor, you're going to be diagnosed. So if you are being diagnosed of autism, then you start the intervention. But you cannot keep your child to yourself at home and you think miracle is going to happen. No, it's not going to happen. So I think that is the first step to do.
Yeah. Anything else?
Yeah, I wanted to add something before you move on, Miss Victoria. Having an autistic child is not a death sentence.
Having a child with autism.
Autism, okay, thanks for correcting me. Having a child with autism is not a death sentence. Mm-hmm. And I'm saying this to mothers that are on the line, it's not. According to my research, and I did that research with Victoria, we realized that Bill Gates was diagnosed with autism. Mm-hmm. I mean, how many people would not want autism with billions? Not to say that you want your child to have autism, but there are levels of functioning as far as I've learned. And he was still able to design all those computer things, even with the diagnosis. For lovers of football, I was told that Lionel Messi is autistic when he was diagnosed with autism when he was a child. And I'm using people that are popular for everybody to relate with to say that because your child has this diagnosis doesn't mean you are doomed. You are not doomed. That child may turn out to be so good in something that even without that diagnosis, that child will not have that capability. So don't look at it as this is the end of the road for me as parents. Because I know as we parents, we kind of like one little diagnosis. We live with it, with the guilt. That's why when Temilola talked about vaccination, I have nurses that have children with autism and still blame vaccination, and they are nurses. So people do that. So we don't live with guilt of this happening to our children in life. Your children will still be whoever God has destined your child to be, regardless of that diagnosis. So please write that down, put it above your bed, put it on your refrigerator. As long as you are praying, you believe God can bring something out of nothing. I have to put on my Christianity cap a little bit. As long as you believe God can bring something out of nothing, it does not matter that diagnosis. Yes, it is tasking for you. Yes, it is a lot of assignment as a mother, but that child will definitely fulfill purpose if you help that child on time.
Yeah.
You know, when people talk about Bill Gates, for example, oh, he dropped out of school, or Mark Zuckerberg. I know that one doesn't have autism, but for example, people say he dropped out of school. Yes, he did drop out of school, but he has been going to computer training since he was 3 years old. So it's not about your child being diagnosed, it's about what you put into that child, even before and after diagnosis. Put all you can physically into that child and spiritually into that child, and you are in for wonders. Over to you.
Can I say something about that?
Oh, Temilola, you want to say? I'm sorry, I didn't know who was talking. Sorry.
Jenna.
Sorry, can I go first really quickly?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yes.
Okay, because I know I'm going to lose this thought if I don't say it now. So I just wanted to add to what Ms. Bunmi said. It's so important to invest in our children. You know, so often when parents get the autism diagnosis, they start thinking about the future. They start thinking about, oh, what about school? What about when they get older? What's going to happen when I pass away? Like they're already killing themselves before they even die, you know, who's going to take care of them when I leave or something of that, you know, that diagnosis can be taken to the extreme, but then parents don't realize that, okay, your child is still a child. Your child is still a kid, you know, start now. Figure out what your child is invested in, figure out what they like, figure out their dislikes. You really have to take your time and actually learn who your child is, learn who this beautiful human being is, and invest in them. Like Bill Gates or Mark Zuckerberg, who was in computer school, I don't know what to call it, since age of 3, you know, put your child in different sports, you know, put your child in different academic skills, you know, and just try out different things and see what your child gears to, and then, you know, kind of work on those skills and elevate them and help your child find joy in that, you know. So often we keep our child indoors because we don't want people to see them. We don't want people to judge us, we want people to judge them. But that doesn't help anyone in the long run. That doesn't help your child. You don't want your child to end up in a nursing home over something that you could have prevented, you know. You don't want them to just grow up in the home and then transfer to another home where, you know, there's so much wasted potential, you know. See the everyday beauty in your child and really, really invest in your child. It's so important.
Yeah, I wanted to add something to what Ms. Bunmi said. You know, we often have issues with this thing of this spirituality thing. If I just want to read a quick scripture in, and that is evidence in John chapter 9, verse 1. And it says, and Jesus passed by. He saw a man which was blind from birth. He saw a man who was blind from birth. And his disciples asked him, saying, Master, who did sin? Master, who did sin? So most of the time, we ask ourselves, maybe it's because of what I did. That is why my son is sick. Maybe because of this ABC. But let's listen. What was Jesus' reply? Jesus answered, neither had this man sinned, nor his parents, but for the work of God to made manifest in him.
Mm-hmm.
So if we want God, sometimes these things happen for God's purpose to be done. Like Miss Bunmi said, if you support your child, you help that child to grow. That purpose that God has destined in that child will surely come to pass. Nothing will change it. Nothing will change it. Autism is not a curse. It's not because you have sinned. It's not because you have done anything. But it's because if we are talking about spirituality, it's because God wants to glorify his name in that child. Mind you, God can use anything to do anything. Yeah. He can use anything. So because the child is being diagnosed with autism does not mean that child cannot be independent at the end of the day. All you need to do, follow therapy. That is the only thing you need to do. And help attend meetings, like Miss Victoria said. Do what you are supposed to do. If you don't know, ask questions. Do research how to help your child. Be supportive as a parent. I think that is the thing that we're supposed to do as African parents, because we are still in a denial. We are still holding on to tradition. We are still holding on to what the pastor said. Oh, let's pray and fast. The Bible says, how can this work? You have to do the work. You have to do the work yourself. If you don't do the work, miracle is not going to come from heaven. Do the work.
Okay, thank you. So we're going to go to the next question. And I actually really like this question because I dealt with it a lot in the clinic and I still see it in the clinic. What is your take on diet in relation to autism? What recommendation do you have for an African parent who consumes mostly African-related food to help their child on their diet? So I'll just go first. Most children who are diagnosed with autism, they're going to tell you what they're going to eat. You're not going to force anything down. They will tell you what they like. Trust me. And if they like a certain food, let them eat it. But also, this is why therapy is very, very important. It's something we had in our clinic. It was called it was food therapy, and we would introduce new foods to that child who only eats a certain thing. Now, there are some research that came out speaking of like your gut health being an effect of autism, but they haven't had any, there's not been anything proven that your gut health and what you consume, your diet, is a cause of autism. I know it was like a big rave, I think like 3 years ago, saying that, oh, because there's this new thing with like your digestive system and the things that it causes and things like that. So they started research on your digestive system. Maybe it's a cause of autism, but there hasn't been anything proven on that. So we can't really tell you that, yes, your diet is what caused autism. No. But what I can say is if your child likes a certain food and only eats that certain food, like some child, we call it the brown diet, when they only eat things that are brown. Some children only eat things that are green. Some, like, there's different things. So what I would tell you is to get them into therapy and then ask the clinic or the company if you guys do food therapy, because you're seeing a pattern in what your child is eating and they're not getting the nutrients that they're needing. If what your child's diet is affecting their growth and things like that, you need to get help with learning how to introduce foods to them and give them foods. Yes, behaviors will occur. Yes, they may throw the food at you. But there's ways we work with parents to get their children to eat other foods. So if your child is eating one thing, you need to get help for that, because it can affect like their development if it's only 2 things they're eating. I had a child in the clinic who only ate vegetables, and we were happy about that because, like, hey, if you only eat vegetables for the rest of your life, that's not going to affect anything, you know? The only thing that he we had to do was find a way to add protein into his diet. And so we had to introduce like meat and stuff. But that comes with getting your child into therapy. But your diet does not affect your child being diagnosed with autism or stuff like that. And what she said, what recommendations do you have for an African parent who consumes mostly African related foods to help their child on their diet? What I would say is just change it up. Let your child explore. Let your child explore different foods. Don't just give them African foods and you don't know, like, let them explore. Take them to the store. Let them pick out, they may pick out a box because it's colorful. Let them pick out that box and let them try the food in the box. Cook other things in the house, put it on a plate, let them pick the foods that they're gonna, they see that they can eat, and then you can go from there. But what I would say is, let your child explore things. A lot of parents don't know what their child is capable of because they hinder them from exploring. We see that a lot. Like, we tell parents, let your child explore. Yes, your child has an autism diagnosis, but they're capable of doing a lot of things that you don't even think they're capable of. So what I would say is let them explore. As long as you're watching them and they don't hurt themselves, or they don't hurt somebody next to them, let them explore what they want to eat. And then you can kind of then put together with your clinician a diet for them based on the foods, and then they can put programs in to add more foods to their diet.
Yeah. I would say I think the only concern when it comes with food is if your child is not eating non-edible things. Like if you notice that your child isn't eating like actual food, they eat paper, they eat hair. We call that pica, yeah. So if your child is eating everything else but food, then I would say, okay, there's a big concern there. Then you want to seek intervention immediately, because we don't want your child to be harmed in any kind of way. But other than that, I mean, I think your child will tell you what they want to eat. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with our African food. I think our food is filled with lots of protein. I know we cook with vegetables a lot, with pepper, tomatoes, all those things are veggies. So I wouldn't say cut it out, but have a well-balanced meal. That's the most important thing. I see parents who only bring snacks for their kids. They don't bring any food, just sugar. That's a problem in its own, honestly. So as long as your child isn't just eating sugary stuff and not just eating snacks, that you're kind of introducing them at an early age to different foods, I think they'll be fine.
Yeah. Did you want to say something, Jenny?
Yes, I think it's not really about food, it's about we, the African parents, because as soon as our kids are being diagnosed of autism, we tend to isolate them. We don't want them to be seen around people or take them to stores. You know what I mean? For fear of shame and all of that. But if you can eat rice, when that child is being diagnosed with autism, does not mean he or she can eat rice. Let that child eat the same thing that you are eating. If you are eating any food, to me, any food that you eat, give that food to that child. If the child does not eat the food, as Timilula said, then there comes in a problem. But because most parents, if when they have children like that, they tend to start to separate themselves from the kids. That love start to drop. They start to create hatred in their hearts, because between the African parent, like the husband and the wife, issues may tend to pop up immediately when something like that is being diagnosed, because the father or the one will be, they start the blame game between both of them. They'll be like, oh yeah, yes, you are the cause of this. Oh yes, you're the cause of this. So what is going to happen? The parents are going to have that division amongst them, then that child is going to suffer. So the attention the child is going to be needing, they're not going to be giving that child their attention. So I still want to encourage us African parents, please, African parents, big that your child being diagnosed of autism does not mean you have to limit that child. Give that child the same opportunity, the same attention that you are giving the other kids, please.
Yes. Thank you. So I know somebody raised their hand and I see your question. I'm going to ask one more question and then we'll go to your question, Auntie Celeste. So what is the difference between autism and speech delays? I am not a clinician, so I can't, I can tell you what I know from reading and stuff, but I don't diagnose and I'm not a BCBA. I don't work as a clinician, though I work closely with them. I don't have the school knowledge they have, but we do have some people. Yeah, we do have some people who can answer that. And then I'll let you guys answer that, who are clinicians and know what the difference is.
I
Right.
think
So,
oh, okay, go ahead.
Okay. So I'm not a clinician either, but I did, my undergrad degree is in free-speech pathology. So the way that
You're kind of low.
I have my mask on. I'm so sorry.
Oh, sorry.
So I was saying, I'm not a clinician as well, but my undergrad degree is in free-speech pathology. So the way that it was taught to me was the distinction between autism and just a simple speech delay is a speech delay is when you're not hitting your milestones per year. So a child is supposed to hit as many words as they are year-wise. So if they're 1 year old, they should be forming one word sentence. If they're two, they should be forming two word sentences, so on and so forth until they kind of like.
Can you speak up? Can you speak up a little bit, Omi?
Yeah. So I'll just kind of say what you said and then you can round up. She basically said the difference is if a child with a speech delay is not meeting the milestones of what they're supposed to. When you go to the pediatrician, your child has to meet a certain weight criteria for their age and like the things that they do. And she's saying that if your child has a speech delay and it's only just a speech delay, it's usually that they're not meeting their milestones. Like a 1 year old is supposed to be able to say this. A 2 year old is supposed to be able to say this.
Can you hear me a little better now?
Yes, now we can hear you better.
Okay, so what I was saying was the speech milestones is up until the age of 4, you should be hitting the same number of words as you are your age. So if you're 1 year old, you should be hitting one word sentences. If you're 2 years old, you should be hitting two word sentences, so on and so forth until your vocabulary is fully developed. So the difference between that and autism is with the speech impediment, that's it. It's only just the language and the speech that is being affected. With autism, it's your speech, it's your food, it's how you are connecting with people, it's your social skills. Speech is just speech. Sometimes you'll have hearing in there, but those two are kind of lumped together. But it's a clear distinction. If your child is, saying baboon instead of balloon, but still making good eye contact with you, still eating everything that's normal for their age, and still hyper doing well with peer interactions, that child is not good. More than likely that child is not autistic. They might just have a speech delay. I hope that was clear.
Yeah. It was kind of just,
can you
I'll just re-say what she said. So basically I heard her, I don't know if everybody else heard, but she basically said that if it's a speech delay, it's only a speech delay. It's only speech. It has no other factors. They're not making eye contact. They're not flapping their hands. They're not doing things that are not typical for their age. So when it's just a speech delay, the only thing that the doctor is seeing and that the parent should see is that the child is not speaking. If you're seeing other things that we mentioned, signs, if you're seeing flapping, if you're seeing stimming, I don't know if people know what stimming is when they, stim and they do a certain movement for, amount of time. When they're doing repetitive behaviors and things like that, then it's more than just a speech delay. So that's basically what she said. A speech delay is just speech. It's just your, I think she said it may have some hearing impaired with it, but
I'm so sorry you guys can't hear me.
No, it's okay. It's okay. And then Timila, I think you had some stuff.
Yeah, I think Umi said it all. It's important to look at it broadly, to look at the whole picture. If it's just speech, than it's just speech, but autism has more criteria in it in order to be diagnosed with autism.
Yeah. Okay, Miss Celeste, please explain the difference between gross motor and fine motor skills. Many parents don't know the difference between what gross motor is and what fine motor, and so they don't know if it's more of an occupational thing or if it's a autistic thing. So if anybody can explain, Umi, Temilala.
Yeah, I think gross is like bigger motor skills, like clapping hands, waving hello, jumping, just things that they can do kind of with their whole body. Finer motor would be kind of like pencil grip. Can they grip their pencils? Can they grip their spoons to feed themselves? Can they kind of brush their teeth? Brushing teeth can be both gross and fine. Can they put on their shoes? Because shoes require you to kind of have like the gross motor skills. Can they like count with their fingers? Can they do the peace sign? Can they do this? Just different motor skills. That's
can you guys hear me? I'm sorry.
Yes.
So if we have anyone in the audience that is living on the continent and doesn't have access to services, some great fine and gross motor activities are like watching the wheels on the bus go round and round, have them reenacted, strings on a beam, having them put strings on a beam, or even like playing like little games. That game where you play with the rocks in the sand and I don't know the name of it. Yeah, or head, shoulders, knees, and toes. Those simple things are great gross motor exercises that you can do until more elaborate services open up.
Yeah.
Thank you. And what I want to add is like, if you want to see your child's play with other children or their gross motor skills and you have them in daycare, ask the daycare if you can come in and see the way that they're playing with other children or the way that their gross motors, if it's head, shoulders, knees, and toes, and your child can't do that, that, okay, there's a gross motor delay there. If they're saying put strings they're doing arts and crafts and your child can't put strings on the bead and it's age appropriate. You can't have a 1-year-old trying to put strings on the bead and then say, oh, I think my child has autism. That's impossible for your child to put strings on a bead. Beads on a string at 1 year old. So if you want to see that, ask your daycare, can I come in? Can I observe playtime, group time? Can I have maybe, sometimes I know some diagnosis centers, they'll have somebody come into the daycare and observe them in their daycare and see like, okay, this is what we're seeing. I wanted to touch a little bit on like playing with other children. Now, some children with autism have great social skills. I have many clients who will play with other children, will talk with other children, joke with other children. You would think the child is not autistic until you start doing maybe fine motor skills, or you start doing academics, or you start doing things like that. Then you kind of see, okay, I see a little delay there. So another thing we would want to tell parents is see how your child interacts with other children. See if they're playing with other children or they're just parallel playing, which is just playing next to them, but they're not interacting with them at all. The way they're playing with other children can be a sign for you to tell the doctor, hey, we were at the playground for 30 minutes and my child did not interact with any child there. The only person they interacted was with the mother. That can be some signs that you can talk to your doctor about that you're seeing. I wanted to read the next question. It says, as a director of the daycare, which is my mama Shade, she's a director of a daycare. She wants to know, what can she tell parents? How can she, sorry, let me just read the question. Most parents want to keep children in daycare rather than go for intervention. How can we refer them to go for intervention? So what can you guys give advice on for like parents who have their children in daycare, or like somebody that works in a daycare that wants to tell the parents like, hey, we're seeing some things that are not normal, how do you feel like they should go about that?
So as truthfully and honestly as possible. I know many daycare workers they're not capable. They don't have the skill to teach. They're not trained at that level to help a child with autism. So the only thing that they can do is refer them out. It would be going against their scope as daycare workers to even try to attempt it, because we don't want to do any damage, you know. So I have I've heard my current patient, they were in a daycare, but the daycare, they had to stop services because they couldn't help their child. Yeah, so I've seen some daycare directors just refuse to accept kids, as sad as it is, but it's necessary, you know, to push the parents out of their comfort zones, to give their child services. And that's what most parents need, is just that push that, okay, we can't do this anymore. You have to do the work on your own. And I know the process, you know, of getting insurance, getting Medicaid, getting a diagnosis, it could be a lot for the parent, but it's necessary. So just telling the parent, we don't have the capability to manage your child. You have to, you know, seek intervention. Just saying that can be that push that child needs, that parent needs.
I think as a daycare worker, you are not working in the ABA field. If you want to discuss something like that with an African parent, because it's very hard for African parents to accept something like that. Yes. So for them to accept it, if you want to do something like that, if you have noticed different behaviors and different things in that child, I think the first thing you should do is to talk to your clinical director or your daycare boss or whosoever that is leading, your supervisor. Talk to your supervisor about it. So this is A, B, and C that I've noticed in this child. Do you think I should talk to the parent? I'm not sure you have the right to talk to the parent, but I think if you discuss it with your clinical director, that clinical director can find a way to talk to the parent to that child, because it has to do with how are they going to accept it. You know, most of them, they have problem with being receptive to something like that. So the first thing you have to do, talk to your clinical director about it. If you have observed something like that, then your clinical director can now take it up with the parent.
Thank you. Mama, you had something? You're on mute. You're on mute. You're on mute.
I wanted to answer that question a little bit with my knowledge. For every company in America, there's a scope of practice. And if we are running an American company, like my mom that asked that question, we have scope of practice. And if there is a care that is not within your scope of practice, just bring out your scope of practice. People are not gonna be happy with you. First of all, this particular person that asked the question is a mother to 500 children. So if she singled out one child, it's gonna cost a lot of headache for her. I know her personally. But the point is, if you don't single out that one child, in the near future, you're gonna regret not singling out that one child, because that child is not going to get help. So legally, bring out your scope of practice. These are the behaviors that the states allow a daycare to take care of. This and this and this, your child's behavior is not within that scope. There is nothing personal in it. It's just not within the scope. And just do it, mama, and let it go. We will try to, I will beg the people from ABA, Temilola and others, or Victoria that lives in Texas, give us links where people can call for help. And maybe we'll give it to the daycare owners, and once you notice it, say, we can't do this for your child, but these are available resources that you can seek help, because most of the parents, they are afraid that they're going to be left without help, because daycare is still helping no matter what, even though if it's not helping the child directly, at least they're still keeping the child during the day, and you can go to work, but they're not helping the child grow. So let's help, Victoria. Let's help in putting together, Ms. Temilola, resources. You used to live in Texas, so you know about Texas. Let's put together resources that we can help to give parents, and say, you can call this for speech therapy. I know Victoria did it for a family before. You can call this for speech therapy. Think Neurology is next door to Memorial Herman Katie. You can give resources that will give the parents a little bit peace of mind, so they don't feel like an outcast trying to look for help.
Thank you. So Ms. Celeste put in there, she works for public school, and she says, we have a lot of children on the spectrum that are high functioning. If the child has been diagnosed, they can be enrolled in the school district in a program called PPCD as early as 3 years old. In addition to that, as a law, we have what we call transition, and we start it when they are in 9th grade to start planning their lives and leaving high school. Whether they are in life skills or taking AP classes, that is based on what the child likes to do, reasonable and real life for the particular child. So before we round up and things, I just want to touch on 2 more topics and then we'll round up. And so what I would like to say is that here in Texas, I don't know if anybody else is in Texas, but here in Texas, Medicaid they have not started to cover ABA, but I believe they're about to start covering ABA. So I know that's a lot of, that takes a lot from the ABA that we provide in like Texas area. But if you're in another state, a lot of other states do, Medicaid does cover ABA therapy. And so you would get with your Medicaid program case manager and you'll talk to them about how you need therapy, but you have to have a diagnosis. They're not going to do anything on your knowledge of, I think my child has autism. That's not going to happen. So the first step for any parent that's online that their child is not diagnosed is to get them diagnosed. I believe the earliest you can get diagnosed is at 2 years old now or 3. I don't know if they changed it. They were talking about 2 to 3. Yeah, they were talking about changing it to as early as 1 year old. I think Temilola touched on that. Changing it to as early as 1 year old when you're seeing things that are not typical for a 1-year-old. And then that kind of helps, like Temilola said, with the future, because then they just graduate and they're able to do the things that their age can do. And so that's like early intervention, trying to get them into that. So I would recommend that. And then I wanted to talk about Africa. A lot of us are in America and we're Africans in America. So we have the resources for ABA. We have people to talk to. We have, care for whatever. If you have insurance and you have good insurance, your child is covered, But let's talk about our people back home. What can we do as us being in America? What can we do for the people back home? If you have a sibling back home that has a child that has autism, what can you do for that person, knowing that there's not resources there? And I'm sure Africans in ABA, I'm sure you guys are working on trying to get resources in as many places as you can. But what can we do? What do you guys suggest that we can do for our family back home that are dealing with children that are possibly on the spectrum? Of course, we don't have the diagnosis, and I'm not sure what it is in Nigeria, how many places they can diagnose. I know Umi talked about Senegal, that they only have 2 people that can actually diagnose in the whole country. That's ridiculous. Here you can walk into literally anywhere and get diagnosed, but when you have two for a whole country, that's ridiculous.
Sad.
So what can we do? And you guys can touch about what you guys do in that aspect.
Mm-hmm. So what we do in Africans in ABA is we try to help out those centers that are already working. So there are a few centers in Africa, in Nigeria. There's particularly one that we are working with, that we are partnering with. And what we do is just help them. Right now, they're doing fundraiser to have a bigger space. So we are donating. We're donating to these centers. We're doing a toy drive, so to send back to them. So that's something that we're going to start up in July. So what we really want to do is help these centers that are already creating awareness, to just kind of expand them and to get more families into services. There is no insurance there, so everything comes out of pocket, and it could get very, very expensive, especially if, there's limited, if your family doesn't have a job, or usually it's only one parent in the household that's working. So we want to try to figure out a way to kind of get free therapy, to do trainings, to do in-home trainings, to do in-home services, virtual services for the families there, to kind of coach the parents on how to respond to their child, teaching them the functions of behavior, teaching them kind of simple ABA terminology, because the awareness is already there in Africa. Parents are starting to accept their children's diagnosis. They're starting to say, okay, I know my child needs help. So there is a little bit of progress, but the only barrier is finances. How can they afford these services? How can they get 40 hours a week when these centers are costing a lot of money? And because they have to ask for money to upkeep their own centers, because it's not government, it's not regulated. The government isn't funding it. So everything comes out of families' pockets or the owners of the center's pockets. So the best thing that we can do is to reach out to the services and ask, if you want to be a blessing to a family, say, okay, I want to pay for 6 months worth of services for any family of your choosing. That's going to go a long way, because families do want these services. They do want their child to get help. So that's the best thing that we can do in Africans in ABA. We are trying, making efforts to help out these centers in Senegal, in Nigeria, South Africa, just trying to, wherever we fit in is where we're trying to get in, however way that we can be a resource to the families and the centers. That's what we're doing.
Also, if you have family in Africa, like personal family in Africa who their child has autism or may have autism, that social support is huge. To know that your family supports you in getting these services for your child, understanding that, because in a lot of countries, awareness is increasing, but there's still a lot of regions where autism awareness and advocacy is not a thing. So just having that, social awareness and supporting your family, if you can't financially help, emotionally and mentally being there for your family members and friends, is a huge step.
Thank you. Jenny, did you have anything? I know you're from Sierra Leone, right?
Yeah. Yes, I am. It's unfortunate that we do not have a clinic in Sierra Leone for autism. And the last time I engaged the Minister of Health, like I said earlier on, he was like, we're paying attention to this. I said, if you're paying attention to this, you people should also pay attention to autism, because it's all come together. It boils down to the health of the kids, So one thing that I told Miss Lola the other day was that I'm trying very hard to create the awareness in Sierra Leone, because I'm not in Sierra Leone right now, and that is the hard part. And I'm trying to work with some colleagues back home that will help me navigate this awareness to spread the news, But now, if you are not in Africa, for you to be here and dealing with something back home, it has to do with different things. It has to come with different concerns. People will be like, for instance, if I say, I want you to go to this hospital, I want you to go to this person, they'll be like, oh, we need this support, we need this. We can't just do it without the financial support. And all by myself, like I said, I can't make it. So I'm trying to like work with people and to create the awareness. First, we have to create the awareness. Then whatever thing that comes with it, we'll move on with that.
Can I come in?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. When it comes to Africa, depending, and when I mean Africa, mostly West Africa, depending on anybody to do anything for you, it's just a mere waste of time. If it is a complete waste of time, I'm sorry. And I'm not mincing words with it. Where if God put it in your heart to help children with autism, then let's do it. Waiting for the minister, you probably will be older than me by the time that minister will reply. That's not gonna work. If it is a one room, you have 2-3 people that can invest one room, and you have one person that you think has a heart of compassion, that alone is going to take you 1 year to look for, because that one person probably wants to feed their stomach first.
That's right.
So if it is one person you're going to get to cooperate with you, and you do virtual training for that one person, and we cry out to 20 people here to give us $5 a month, I don't mind. I help the blind in Nigeria. I don't have a blind child, but I do help the blind community. And sometimes people promise you money, they never give it. But out of my paycheck, I get maybe $5, $10 from my children, from people that can help me, and send it to the blind community. I have a pastor's wife that feed children, I think maybe once a month or once a week. You will never get those ones in high-ranking places in Africa to help you. My sister, don't let's waste time. When my daughter Victoria started talking, she started a company called Africa Awareness. I don't remember, AA something that she started, she registered it. And I told her, when we are ready to do this, one room is enough. Let's go start. Let's help one child. Somebody posted a story of a child with cerebral palsy that started playing chess. Somebody posted it on this chat. And that child ended up winning a competition in Lagos State. So when you are ready, Sister Jene, just call me. Let's get one room. Let's find somebody with a passion. Doing something in Africa is not a communal thing. It's one person doing it and being able to face your God, that I have done what you have laid in my heart. If you are looking for communal effort, you're going to look until Jesus shows up in the sky. Because everybody is thinking about how they will feed themselves, buy a new car. Isn't it Sierra Leone that their governor bought 5 Lincoln Navigator to tackle COVID?
Yes, ma'am.
So if you can buy 5 or 12 Lincoln Navigator or Lexus 480 because you are trying to fight COVID, you think they will remember autism? No. Let's just go serve one person. By the grace of God, that one person will serve one person. Then it becomes a ripple effect. And that is what we can do concerning Africa. Waiting for help. We'll pray for help. Maybe God will let one person help us in America. But for Africa, don't let's think about it. Let's just go start one thing. Do one child. By the grace of God, that one child will go places. And that one child will do 2. That 2 will do 4. That 4 will do 8. You can only reach so little. But that so little gives you peace of mind.
Yeah. Yes, thank you. So just one more question and then we'll round up. Somebody said, explain what stimming is. So stimming is a repetitive behavior or unusual movements or noises. It can be a noise that they make. it can be movements that they do, but it's usually repetitive. It's not like, oh, you move your hand once, that's not stimming. It's a repetitive behavior. Now, if you see stimming in your child and your child is not diagnosed with autism and they tell you that your child doesn't have autism, it may be something neurological, or it may be like ADHD or something like that along those lines. So don't get scared when you see a child that they've already said does not have autism, they've gone through the diagnosis, and they start stimming. It can be other underlining things that can cause the stimming. But if your child is not diagnosed and you see stimming, which is repetitive movements or repetitive noises, then you need to go get your child diagnosed, and they need to figure out what it is. They can tell you that it's just ADHD. And I mean, then you go about your life and they take ADHD medicine. But ADHD has its own, it comes with its own things as well. A child with ADHD it's a lot too. So get your child diagnosed, but it's repetitive movements or sounds. I think Umi wants to say something along those lines.
Yeah, so the big thing with stimming, and stimming comes into that category of if it's not socially significant, if it's not harming the child, we don't do anything about it. Because for a lot of kids on the spectrum, stimming is self-soothing. So they do it a lot of times in response to stress. Oh, I'm so sorry for the background noise. In response to stress, in response to, just being pent up high emotions. For example, I worked with a kid who would walk on his tippy toes. And that was he would just walk around on his tippy toes if he was really stressed out. We did not do anything for that behavior because it was his way of self-soothing himself. But he also would clench his fingers. We put intervention on that because he was doing it so often that his fingers were taking form and were staying in that clenched position. But the intervention simply was to give him a squeezy ball. So it's not something that, if you see him doing it, you're not going to be like, oh, he's clenching his fingers, because the squeezy ball is small enough that he can use it and it isn't distracting anyone, and he's still gaining that self-soothing, effect that they get from stimulating. So oftentimes oftentimes it falls into that category of, is it affecting them? Is it socially significant? If not, just leave it.
Yeah. So lastly, I don't know if anybody has any questions that they want to unmute themselves and talk about. We can answer those questions and then we can round up. And I think I mentioned that Africans in ABA have an Instagram, they have a Facebook, so you can reach them if you're needing help, and maybe you have a family member in Africa and they're in that place. You can reach them for like resources and things like that. Did you have a question?
Yes, I do. I saw Coach Celebrity raised up her hand one time, and the African mother with a child with autism. I don't know. Are you on the line, Miss Margaret? I don't know if I mute you. She just called me that she has a 15-year-old that has a diagnosis of autism, and she just wanted to encourage the moms online, but we will do our last. Coach Celebrity raised her hand earlier. I don't know. Do you still have a question?
Thank you so much, Auntie Bunmi. I did have a question. I was just going to give a little bit of, I was going to make a little contribution towards the autistic child or children and food issues. So what I was going to say earlier then, because that was where we were when I raised my hand, was how to help children with autistic they're usually picky eaters. They're usually picky eaters. And I know that a lot of parents struggles on what kind of food to give them, especially because of the hyperactivity that they may be concerned about. So the first thing I'd like to say is that we first of all need to rule out the problems. Like if the child is clamping, like shutting their mouth when you want to give them some certain food, it could be that the child already knows that food is going to hurt his or her stomach, because they're usually down with, some of them have gastrointestinal distress. So, which is common among children with autism as well. So if you cannot pinpoint that this is not, if you cannot rule out medical problems, please don't force them to eat a particular kind of food or because you feel that's what you can afford at that point. Let them, like Victoria said, let them take them out. Let them point to foods and they're going to be attracted to a lot of colorful boxes. But what I will suggest is we need to make sure that those children are eating healthy. You can't feed them with so much juices. You can't feed them with so much sugary things. That's not going to work. And then we also need to stay calm. They need to learn that. I mean, we as parents that have such children need to be calm. You need to know that those children, they can taste a specific food for more than 10 dozen times before they settle down to telling you in any way they can that they really, really like this food. So if you don't do that, there's going to be a problem. Then number 3, we need to take steps towards tasting. You need to realize that many of the children living with the autism, they're afraid to try new things. They are usually afraid. So we need to help them to, to explore. We need to help them by maybe touching the food, smelling it, whatever it is. Don't be too quick to jump to conclusion that, oh, they're wasting the food, they're doing this. No. And then we need to know that they work with textures. Children with such things work with textures. So they are very, very hypersensitive sensitive when it comes to textures. Remember that it may be how the food feels in their mouth. It's not that the food is not good, mothers. It's not that the drink is okay, but they don't like the texture of that particular food in their own mouth. So you can try chopping the food, you can try blending such food, you can smoothie it out so that the offending texture will be out of it. Then you need to let them play with new foods. That's another way, they can familiarize themselves and decrease mealtime anxieties. Because when it comes to meals, like the few mothers that I've worked with, because I'm into nutrition, and those are the things that I advise people. Don't lock your mind to the fact that, oh, they're not going to be able to do this, or they play with, let them texturize their food. You can blend it, you can smoothie it. You don't have to do, my mom says we need to eat our rice with spoon and with plate and spoon. If your child wants you, if the child likes the food blended, it's still the same rice, mind you. So people will say, oh, it's not the same thing. It's the same thing, because as a nutritionist, I tell people that it's the same thing, because when you blend your rice, the same calories in the cooked rice, it's still the same rice, the same content of the same calorie in that one. So let them play with new food. Then you need to offer them choices and give them control. Yes. Let them have control over what they want to eat. Don't let us force it. Let them offer choices, and let's be careful with how we reward. Because if you're going to be giving them reward, you can also give them like a little bit of reward. If you try this, but don't necessarily make the reward the focal point. Instead, they won't also like the food. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. So one thing I just wanted to add is the reason why we say therapy is so important is because when your child is in therapy, the therapy that they're doing, whether in the clinic or at home, is going to happen at home too. It's a thing that everybody in the family has to work on. If your child is working on something in the clinic, it has to be worked on at home. You can't expect it to be worked on in the clinic and then you come home and you ignore it, because they're going to forget it, they're going to regress, and then the behaviors are going to start, and it's just going to be a cycle of my child is not getting anywhere. And that's because you're not following what the clinician had planned for your child at home. So I would advise parents, it is hard. It is time consuming. It's a lot to do the things that you have to do for your child who has autism. But I'm going to tell you, if you take the time to do it now, in the future is going to be easier, because even that child is not going to forget and like, oh, I do this at the clinic, mom is still going to make me do it at home. So the child is just going to do it, but we do a lot of, in the clinic, we do a lot of rewarding and giving them reinforcements when they do something. talk to, if your child is already in therapy, go to parent training, know what they're reinforcing your child for and what they're not reinforcing. Beating your child, whooping your child when they do something is not going to help. It's not, because there's things called negative reinforcements. There's a lot that you can get into when your child does something wrong and you hit them. That it's not going to work. It's going to make you frustrated, and it's going to just make your child just frustrated as well and show other behaviors with it. So we have to take away our culture and our tradition when it comes to dealing with children who have autism, because a lot of things don't work for them. And a lot of things that you yelling, hitting, all that, it doesn't work for them. You have to find what works for them. And when you find it, your life will become easier. Trust me. When you know what motivates them to do something, like take a shower, your life will become easier. If you know that, oh, if they know, if I take a shower, mom's going to give me a cookie, or mom's going to let me watch TV for 10 minutes, they're going to get into the shower as it becomes repetitive. So let's try to get our children into therapy. And if you don't have the resources wherever you are, reach out for those resources. And we can do the best that we can in directing you into the right places. And then we can also see if there's any way we can get your child diagnosed and a clinician to help with programming, maybe at home, things like that. There's in-home therapy, and there's also clinic therapy where you drop them at the clinic and you pick them up. And then there's in-home where the tech comes to your house and they work on things in the home. So whatever is best for you, I think you should, it's not really what's best for you, actually. It's really what's best for the child. Some children do not do well with in-home therapy. I had a lot of children we had to send to the center because they are home, so they're comfortable. They don't want to do anything. And so just reach out, talk to people, talk to your doctors, talk to your psychologist, your neurologist, ask questions. The more questions you ask, the more you're on the path to success with your child. If you keep quiet, you're gonna be miserable, and it's gonna be a lot. When they reach a certain age that their behaviors have spiked and you can't even control them in public, it's gonna be difficult. So let's try to reach out now. And even if your child is 15 and you didn't, reach out, there's always time. Umi was talking about, she works with children who are 15 and older. There's still time to get them into therapy. Don't say that, oh, they're already old enough, I'm just gonna endure. No, we can help you find resources for your child. Any last words from anybody before we?
Yes.
1 o'clock.
Yes, I have a mother. I'll give her 2 minutes. I talked to her earlier. Miss Margaret, can you say something? She has a child that has, is that the right way to say it? A child with autism? Is that what I'm supposed to say? Yes. Hello, Miss Natalie.
Oh, hi, good morning. Good afternoon. Morning. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Sorry, first of all, I apologize. I worked last night, so Miss Bunmi saw me when I was working last night. So I just, it was her phone call that woke me up. So thank you for that. So my voice sounds really terrible right now. But I don't know what has been discussed much, because I've been trying to get in. But my son was diagnosed with autism at the age of 3, and he had been nonverbal. He had spoken I think on 3 occasions before. Then all of a sudden, it's like we see this child just regressing and then getting into like a shell, and it was hard to kind of break him out of it. But it took me, to be honest, like a year to actually wake up from it and then decide that, you know what, I have to do something about this, because it was like in denial. And then I'm like, no, this can't be happening to me, because you have dreams for your children, but then all of a sudden this happened. And so a lady who, where I was before living in Tennessee, had told me, you have to start early. You have to, whatever you can do, start now to begin to work with him. And so that's what we did. And then put him in school early, and then they put him into mostly an ABA type setting. And so instead of like, where everyone else is doing academics and things like that, they're teaching them life skills, how to put your shoe on properly. No, this is the left foot from the right foot. And then, in fact, to be honest, it was the school that helped him a lot with eating, because I'd have to feed him myself before. But then when he went to the summer program, the teacher said, no, we're not going to have this, and began to teach him to feed himself. So he started to feed himself. And then I know that he wasn't giving me eye contact at first. So there was a book I was reading, and thankfully I was able to get in touch with one of the authors who contributed to the book, Dr. Miley Pools, who actually lives in Hawaii, but has a clinic in California. And so when I talked with her, she said, we're going to take care of the issue of the lack of eye contact. And then she recommended, what do you call it? Something called a cod liver oil, but was made at her pharmacy. And when she sent it to me, it went in less than 2 weeks. He started giving me eye contact. So I started to buy some more of the cod liver oil from Whole Foods, and that had helped him tremendously. So now when he's talking to you, he gives you eye contact. So just to encourage the mothers out there, it's a journey, but if we the main thing, first of all, I think, is for you to accept the situation and then begin to work on it, and begin to, you can start with small steps and little things that they begin to do to make changes. I mean, it's really encouraging. So I would just encourage you to just, like now, my son is just, before he would just like to eat rice, then it's just white rice, white rice and stew. Then all of a sudden, he doesn't want to eat that. He now wants to eat jollof rice. So it was only jollof rice. And the next thing, he saw fried rice, and then he left jollof rice and started eating fried rice only. And now it's spaghetti. He's in the phase of spaghetti now. So they go from different phases. But the thing, I don't know who just mentioned it, but present different foods, offer different foods. It doesn't matter how many times you offer it. Sometimes you offer it, let them just touch it. That touching alone, that's a big milestone. For them to even just touch the food, that is you accept to do that. Hey, that's a great thing for today. Tomorrow, they may try to touch it and then actually smell it before even tasting it. So they have a heightened sense of taste, touch, and every other thing. So just each day, just try presenting something new, and you'll be surprised to see that there are going to be a lot of changes. So I don't know if anyone has it. I mean, Miss Bunmi, you can give my number to anybody who has questions or wants to talk with me after, and just generally wants an idea of what to do or who to talk with, or I mean, how to even go about with exploring the issue with school, because sometimes there may be roadblocks there, but you just have to persevere and you have to push your head forward, because sometimes they'll say, oh, it's not offered, it's not available, but no, you have your rights. You have your rights. Your child is entitled to a free and public education in the least restrictive environment. There's a time a principal threatened that my son would not be able to come to the school, blah, 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 and that he's going to have to be at home. I said, that's no problem. Then you're going to have to send a teacher and all his academic school stuff that he's supposed to do, and come to my house. The door will be open. And you're going to sit there and you're going to teach my son for the hours that he's supposed to receive if he was in the school. I said, there's no problem. He must be entitled to his education in the least restrictive environment. And so when he saw I meant business, he said, okay, that's not exactly what I meant, whatever. But if you stand your ground, they know that you're a parent that they can't just, relegate to the side. So anybody that has questions or you want to talk with me after, please feel free to talk with Ms. Bunmi and the other coordinators. And I'm open to questions.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you so much. I want to thank Africans in ABA. I want to thank you guys so much for joining us and for teaching us a lot of things and also bringing light into what you guys are doing. It's big, and everything that you're doing, I know that you're going to succeed, and we're going to reach as many children and families that we can. And we're going to teach them that this is something that we can work with. And these children are beautiful. They're beautiful children. And we just have to work and be patient with them. One thing I like to add, I don't know if in any other states, in Texas, your child can leave school early for therapy. I don't know how it is in other states, but for Texas, you can pull your child out of school legally and they can go to therapy as long as they're going to therapy and they need the therapy, then you can pull them out of schools. We have a lot of younger kids who go to school half days and then they do therapy the half of the days. So if you need insight on that, you can reach out to me. I can give you the form that my company uses to give the school that I need to pull them out for therapy for so-and-so hours. You can do that. I don't know how it is in the other states, but I know in Texas it's like that. But I want to just say another big thank you for everybody that joined. If you do have any questions and want to reach any of us, please reach out to Bunmi Adeniran, and she will give you what contact details for anybody that you want to reach out to. And if you have any questions and things like that, I just want to thank everybody for joining us, and to help please spread the awareness of autism and how to get these parents help. And thank you. Mom, do you have anything?
Yes, I wanted to say thank you to everybody that joined. And I wanted to say, it's one thing to have a program, it's another thing to be willing to help. So when we cry out for help, that we're going to have an autism center in my village, Abeokuta, or in Sister Gina's village, I don't know where it is, in Sierra Leone, please, please, please.
And in Angola.
And in Angola, God bless you, my sister in Christ. She loves things of God. If we reach out to you that we need help, your $1 will go a long way. Your $2 will go a long way for people back home. Please, let's do it. You know, we can't reach everybody. We are not Disney yet. But, Disney is worldwide. But I believe Disney didn't start as worldwide. It started with a little bit of thing, and it started growing. If we decide to make autism a thing of the past, that it will be less difficult for parents to handle. Parents will have a life, because most parents, once their children is diagnosed, their life is engrossed in managing that child. And they're frustrated. Some, their marriage suffer a lot of each. Like my sister was saying the other time, then blame game. Is your chromosome, is your Y, is your X, is this, is that. If we can help anybody, let's do it. Whichever way we can help. Life is very limited for everybody. Nobody knows when the time will be up. So the little you can do it for a child dealing with autism. When you see them in public, you can't help the children. I realized that I wanted to help a child that was diagnosed, but because they don't have some of them don't have social skills. The child repelled me. And then I remember what my daughter told me, Mommy, they're not going to play with you. They don't know you. So all I could do was reach out to the mom and say, you're a special mom. You're trying your best. Don't give up. It is. So let's encourage each other. The same way children deal with cancer, children deal with autism. And autism is not even deadly. So I'm appealing to you. Reach out to somebody. Africans in ABA, you're the best. I thank God, Miss Lola, for the vision God has given you. I know it's going to go places. You have me behind you. I'm not a rock, but we're all standing on the rock of God, and it's going to help you. Let me know whenever I can help. And when I'm ready to start one in my village, I'll let you know. Yeah. Okay. Thank you, everybody. You have a blessed week. If you need anybody's information, please reach out to me. Some have requested the video. I will try to find people that know technology and they will help me get this video off iCloud. But it is on YouTube as I speak. So you can go on YouTube and watch it as well. God bless you real good. Have a good weekend. Thank you.
Thank
you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye, Miss Lola. I'll call you.